Hello, friends. Welcome back to the layout, the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Darrell Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for episode 29 of season 2024. That's right, 2024. This update features work on bridges. The main bridges are, of course, these Thru Truss bridges going across the Weber River, but I also did some work on the Interstate 84 bridge that goes across the layout. So make sure you subscribe, like this video, comment, ring the notification bell. Definitely be a full-time participant. All right, before I get to the Thru Truss bridges, I did some work on the interstate that goes over the tracks near the Taggart Mountain. And I'm using some hardboard here as the roadbed for this, and I had it cut out, and I'm trying to now work on the fascia so that it kind of meets up and I can cut it off and have it all look nice and even. So I basically set it on there. I have some 1x3s there attached to the bench work to raise it up so that it can go over at a somewhat reasonable grade. Checking the level here. Now it is not level, but it is kind of banked a little bit as it goes around the curve. So that was good. And then it kind of evens out as it gets towards the end. Now it really isn't that visible when you look at it, but I was just, as I said, trying to make sure things were as level as possible. This is an upgrade here, or uphill. So everything kind of checked out, and I put the new fascia up on there, and then I kind of marked where everything was, and I cut and removed the existing fascia because it was going to need to be replaced with a new fascia that was going to go up high enough to meet with the interstate that goes over. So once I had the old one off, then I put the new one in, and I drew a line under the roadbed and then cut it off with my jigsaw according to that line. And here I have it all kind of set back in, and I'm drawing in some lines here to where the fascia is going to go up to meet with the interstate as it goes over. I decided I'm going to have to extend this out a little bit there. So here's kind of just some freehand drawn lines. I notice it overlaps with the existing fascia, but once I have it all cut out, then I can cut that and get it to meet up. So here I've cut the new fascia out and spliced it with the existing ones, and then attached it to the roadbed for the Interstate 84 that's going to go over. Now, one thing I noticed when I got this done is that it's kind of like a big, on the fascia, it kind of makes a big, huge blob. So I was a little concerned about that. I'm going to have a mirror there as it goes into the wall. I'm going to put some piers and abutments and so forth to make that look like a highway underpass. Now again, look at that big blob. It was just kind of really, I wasn't really happy about it. And I knew if I paint it black, it's going to kind of disappear a little bit, but it still was like, okay, that just really sticks out more than I wanted to. So I'll get back to that in a little bit. Now the bridges, one thing I did is I selected this color, been going back and forth on different kinds of greens, and I'm used this picture here as a reference. Now if you notice, the part of the bridge that's in the sun is a lighter color than the sides here, so it's really hard to decide on a color because you look at different pictures, and just depending on the time of day and what angle and so forth, you can get all kinds of different tones of green. So I settled on this one here. It's moss green, and I think it's Krylon. I'll have to check that out. but I settled on this color, and I think it's probably as close as I'm going to get to having the right. And it's going to be weathered and lots of rust, and we'll definitely spray it with some weathering, make it like dirty on the bottom, and then dust all around, plus lots and lots of rust. So if you notice, I drew in the lines on where I wanted to cut. After I removed the track and roadbed, I set the bridges down, and then kind of figured out where exactly I was going to cut to make it fit the bridges. And if you notice, I also put a 1x3s, in some places a couple of 1x3s from the existing. On the right side, I have a 2x4 and then a couple of 1x3s. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to make sure the plywood was very stable. So I have blocks underneath it. I just put as many combinations to make it fit. And then once I had it where the bridges fit in there, then I put another 1x3 block in there to be the abutment for the bridges to rest on. And then I just kind of clamped them in to make sure that the abutments were exactly the right height. I put my level in there and kind of raised and lowered it so that it would be a nice smooth transition. I also used the feel test, put my finger on there and make sure it felt like it was a level transition from one to the other. So it definitely is, this is an important part of installing a bridge, making sure it's level and it is a flush transition from the roadbed to the bridge and then back to the roadbed. So here I have it all set in. Everything fits perfectly. Now, when I put the scenery in and so forth, blocks there are going to be spray painted gray to match the color of concrete. And then there'll be scenery, of course, that will be around it. So not very much of it will actually be visible, just the top portion. And here you can kind of see the transition from one to the other. Now I made sure that they were not exactly parallel, or exactly matching each other, as far as there's a little bit of an offset. So the river does kind of go to the right there a little bit towards the end, so I made the one in the back over to the right a little bit compared to the one in the foreground. And that is consistent with the prototype. They are not exactly lined up with each other. There's a little bit of an offset between the two. All right, so everything was looking good. And also I do have the concrete track cut off further than the wood ties. That's because they did have a bit of wood ties as a transition. They don't have the concrete ties going right up to the bridge. I'm not sure why that is. All right, I got some micro engineering bridge track, code 83, and put that in. I was kind of going back and forth between microengineering, and Walthers has some new bridge track, but Walthers is twice as expensive, and I really like the look of the microengineering. And they does come with some guardrails that I'm going to be putting in there eventually, and then also the guard ties along the edge of the bridge ties. So that's all going to go eventually. Now when I put this in, it kind of looks naked by the track. Like there should be more something there, and then of course after I thought about it, there's actually a walkway that's going to go on both sides of the bridge track, so I'll have to add that eventually. All right, now this road looks pretty good, I think, coming through here, but again, the blob factor, I was not happy with that, so I decided that instead of it straightening out at the end, I was going to have the curve continue all the way to the fascia, and then that way, by keeping the curve continuous and not straightening it out at the end, it would reduce the size of this blob. I didn't want that to be a distraction from the trains. So I added a little piece of of hardboard there. I may add a little bit more yet too. And then you can see where I'm going to cut it here, and then have the curve of the interstate continue all the way to the fascia. And so this is how it looks now. So it definitely is a pretty sizable reduction in the size of the fascia that comes up at that point. So looks pretty good. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do for the actual road surface, if I'm just going to paint it the existing hardboard and then put the lines on, or if I'm going to use smooth it from Walther's trains. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out exactly what I want to do about that. Now this next coming week, I'll be putting in the ground forms, put some cardboard webbing in and some rosin paper on there, and get some abutments for the highway overpass. But this is all turning out pretty nice. I'm really kind of happy with the way this is all coming through. Now this is kind of the color I also settled on for the river. Of course there's going to be some Envirotex leveling polyurethane shininess that I'm going to put on top of the river, so that it has a reflective quality and will reflect the colors of the landscape and the colors of the backdrop. So it'll definitely look a lot better once it's got that in there. Here you can see it's kind of a army green, but that should look definitely a lot better once it's got the Envirotex on top of it. This looks pretty cool with both trains going through the bridge. And you notice it is a very smooth transition from the roadbed to the bridge and back to the roadbed, and then going under the interstate. Now right here below where the camera is right now is going to be a little parking lot area that's on the prototype. That's where a lot of people go to take pictures. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to put some people there doing some train watching. Really excited about how this interstate's going to look also. So this next week I'll be putting in some ground forms, and hopefully it gets the plaster on it also. And then a couple weeks, so I would say by the middle of August I should have this whole section done. Next week I'll get to at least having the plaster done. Then the following week I'll get some paint on it and some ground foam and vegetation on it. That should look pretty good. And then that Devil's Slide back behind the interstate there, that's going to take another week, I think, to get that done. And then the interstate. So it could be another 3 weeks, maybe 4. Just depends on how things go. This definitely is a cool area. And I really like it too because it's when people think of the Evanston sub, this is definitely a area that they remember. We have a loaded coal train going westbound and auto racks heading eastbound. I'm going to be taking another trip to Evanston subdivision probably at the end of August, or first part of September, somewhere in there. And I'm going to take a drone with me and hopefully get some really good pictures for future background work. Not sure if I'll replace any that's already on the layout, but I might. I can come up with some really good photos. But this is where things stand as of September 28th. Excuse me, July 28th. What month am I in? July 28th. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great week. Stay tuned for more from the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision. Take care, everybody.